All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome on back to the Cinema Lords podcast. Big episode for everybody today. Not only going to be previewing the third season of The Bear, which is one of my favorite TV shows, not just running right now, but probably of all time. Probably a top 10 for me. Love this show. Very excited for the third season. But this also is the first episode that I'm going to be having a fellow minifan on. My man Fax here. First minifan of all time to be on the show, Fax. What's going on?
What's up? What's up? Happy to be here. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, especially now that we're going to be talking about something other than, just the Kirk Manahan show. It's going to be about a show and a good one at that, a really, really good show. Yeah, I did not expect to get as glued as fast as I was when I started watching it, but holy shit, it's a good one.
The intensity keeps you coming back. It's just the friction, the intensity, the drama is so much there for a simple cooking show. It just keeps you coming back for more.
Oh yeah, and the fact that they fit it all into 25-minute episodes is even crazier because I
Yep.
just feel like I'm on edge the entire time, and then before I know it, it's over and I'm clicking the next one.
Yep, for sure. But before we start diving into things, I mean, basically, just for us, we've only talked one time on Mike and the Minifans one Friday, a couple months, probably about a month ago now. Other
Yeah.
than that, that's it. That's like I think you said that night that you and your wife were banging through this show, and that
Mhm.
that, that kind of just stuck with me, and that was the reason why I decided to hit you up for this because I got one friend that's really into this show, but he's been on a bunch of times, and I've been waiting to get a Minifan on. So this was a good opportunity to get you in here.
Oh yeah, I mean it's perfect for me, I don't get a lot of people within work or outside of it too that are just like wanting to sit down and go through a TV show and talk to it, or they won't be watching similar shows.
Yep.
Everyone's watching those basic like super popular TV shows and we can go for that, but then there's these new ones that come up and no one really catches up.
Yeah, I
So,
feel like this one was kind of a hidden gem for a while, especially I think like after the first season had come out and it had been out for a couple of months and more people checked it out on Hulu. I feel like there was a big pop for it after that. And then I thought season 2 was as far as fan base wise was much bigger, and now I think season 3 is just going to continue trending in that direction basically.
oh yeah, most definitely because I think the first season everyone was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, it's Lip from Shameless and now he's trying out a new show and he's going to be a cook now." But then after the first season, the people who had watched it, you heard like everyone saying like, "No, this is actually a really really fucking good show."
Yep.
And then season 2 was just this exponential explosion of just everyone praising it constantly. I
Yep.
had one guy who I used to be working next to. He would talk about it all the time, and then I finally sat down and watched it. Yeah, a few weeks back, and I just couldn't stop.
Yeah, it definitely goes because, like you said too, like 25-minute episodes. It does feel, especially if you have like a Saturday or Sunday where you're not doing anything, you can bang through the whole season, and I think it's like three to 4 hours. It's basically like a really long movie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it's a very easy watch to just kind of go through. I feel like I've
Hmm.
definitely watched. I mean, at least when season 2 came out, I definitely like binged that whole thing. It came out on Thursday. I think I watched maybe like 4 episodes on Thursday night and then finished the rest like first thing Friday. But
Yeah.
it's a nice easy watch, even though, like we said, it is very intense for just simple cooking. It's a very you're on the edge of your seat, you get the sweaty palms, you just feel uncomfortable watching the show.
Oh yeah, and especially if you have like any experience in a kitchen whatsoever, whether
Yeah.
it be like I worked in a pizza shop when I was younger,
Oh, did you?
and
Okay.
something as like low key as that in comparison to someone who's worked in a restaurant for years and years and years, you're going to enjoy the show because there's always either the little things that stick out to you where you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that in my place of work," or it's just going to be like the overall theme of how much more intense it is than what you're used to.
Yeah.
Like a chain pizza shop is a lot different from a restaurant that was first falling apart and then next rebuilding, and
Into
now
something
as we're going to
totally
get
different.
into, yeah, they're going to be trying to be a restaurant that's worthy of a star. So it's like that whole different vibe of what a restaurant can be is crazy to watch, and like you said, super stressful the entire time. You're always like clenched because you're waiting for something to like fuck up or pop off at every minute.
Yeah. It perfectly said. I mean, I love this show. I can't wait. Let's kind of go through, like we're already kind of doing it now, but let's do like season 1 verse 2. Like you just watched them. Which season did you prefer, 1 or 2?
I preferred season 2 personally just because it was slower in some parts, but it felt a little more calculated versus season 1 felt just like pure chaos.
Yes.
And that's really good for like grabbing your attention. And I think season 2 did a really good job of slightly turning it down and then slowly building it back up right towards the end of the season. Like, I think that's my favorite part about season 2 is how beautiful the gradual incline of intensity was
Yeah.
because, like, for people, who are watching it, that last episode in comparison to the first episode of season 2 are like night and day, and it's insane.
That last episode they killed. I loved the music transition as they keep going back from the floor to the kitchen and how they keep changing up the musical dynamics. That was awesome. I loved that a lot. I like season 1 just because of the high intensity. I like
Yeah.
how it's the small town. I like that you're just getting introduced to the characters. Everyone seems crazier. See, like even in season 2, actually, everyone seems more relatable, a little bit more humane. Season 1, everything's kind of just completely erratic at all times, which that I did enjoy. Season 2 did a couple things that I did like though. I did like that you could tell like the increase in budget led them to like they do more stuff actually inside Chicago, even just
Yeah.
camera sites. They would do more stuff of, drone views from overhead and just showing more of the city and stuff like that. I like that because you get more of a vibe for where they are and kind of just like how chaotic life is in there in general. So I did like
Oh,
that
yeah.
shit.
Yeah,
And
most
then,
definitely.
sorry. And then obviously the other thing was just you got like the episodes like Fishes, the Christmas episode, which was fucking chaos. The Spoons episode, while it's like I think that's my favorite episode, even though I like season 1 more. The Spoons episode where Cousin goes and like basically learns how to be a manager, a floor general. I thought that episode was incredible. That's the one I've gone back and watched. I think like 3 or 4 times now. This episode's so good.
Oh yeah, that's actually also my favorite episode. I was gonna say a lot of people
Hell yeah.
and a lot of critics they praise fishes and everything, but for me, I grew up in a family of 10, so I was just sitting there and I was just fucking like
Damn.
almost like eternally panicking because it just felt like I was at a family dinner that whole time. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it was still really like gripping and interesting to see like a little more chaotic side because my family was never really that intense. It
Yeah.
never got to that point, but watching that dynamic, I felt almost like calm in the storm, but at the same time, I was just like, something is gonna happen. I know it is. Versus an episode like Spoons, I liked it because it had you guessing the entire time of
Mm.
like when it first started, you didn't really know what was going on. Like for me personally, I thought he was dreaming because it
Okay.
was just
Yeah, I
so
get that.
odd. It was like he just all of a sudden was in a kitchen and a guy came in and was like, "Start cleaning spoons." And
Yep.
I was like, "Is he like dreaming? Is he tripping off of something?
That's a
Like
good
what's
call.
going on?" And then all of a sudden you saw throughout the dynamic and when you saw Carm involved and you saw kind of like the dynamic, it unfolded itself perfectly
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
to like why he was there, what he was supposed to do there, and kind of like the overall purpose. And it was like the most perfect episode, in my opinion, yet of a TV show that I've seen in quite a while.
It really is that good. The conversation about respect outside is I think that's probably my favorite part, but he's like, "I don't need you to, like, believe in what we're doing, but I need you to respect the staff, I need you to respect the service, me, and respect yourself." And he's just like, "I can do respect." I was just like, that's great. That's a great line. I love that right there. I feel like that's cousin to a T.
Oh yeah, and it gives you a whole different perspective on like the restaurant business and like you said, a respect for it in general too. Because before, even when I'm watching it or somebody else is watching who doesn't have experience in restaurants, they're going to be looking there and watching all this chaos unfold in seasons 1 and 2. And they're going to be thinking, like, what's the big fucking deal? This is a restaurant. You guys serve food. But all of a sudden, you kind of see what can happen when somebody takes pride in their work, even with something like food and service and like cleaning fucking spoons. You see
Absolutely.
every detail down to a T and you learn to appreciate the little things. And that's why you
What
kind of
goes
like
into
start to
winning something
enjoy.
like this?
Oh, yeah. And it's like you see that it's not built in a day. It's not just, oh, clock in, clock out. It's like a straight up business. So I really enjoyed that part and it helped me kind of see that perspective the show has at least because I've seen Kitchen Nightmares, but I'm just like, okay, it's just
Yeah.
chaos. And then fucking Gordon Ramsay fixes it and then a family cries.
There's a
But in
few good
this,
movies too, like
yeah.
the Burnt one with Bradley Cooper. I like that one.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Chef's
yeah.
not so much high intensity, but Chef's a really, really good movie with Jon Favreau. It's got a lot of delicious looking food if you're a fan of this.
Yep. Yep.
Before we go any further, 10 to 1 of 10. That's wild.
Yeah, so like 8 kids including myself and then 2 parents. So it was just kind of like it's always chaos and it's really different too now that we're all adults
Yeah.
and my sisters they have kids and then I have 2 of my own, so that means when the family's together, it went from like 10
It's an
to
army.
like 20 because it's like kids and spouses and girlfriends and friends. It's like all the shit combined. So every time you go to Christmas, you're sitting there talking and having a conversation, and then you can't finish your sentence because someone else has something to say. So it's just like you're sitting there jumping around. And my wife, I don't know how she doesn't like go insane. I mean, she does sometimes, just like seeing that chaos of
Yeah.
a huge family trying to conversate. So
Listen, my family's not 10. I mean, I come from a big Portuguese family, but the holidays are it's chaos. Even not holidays, just it'll happen sometimes. Like right now, the Euro soccer tournament's going on right now. So Portuguese games are out of control. There's 30, 40
mm,
of us, and it's chaos. And at any time, it's napalm too. If the wrong thing gets said to the wrong person, family or not, things could just explode. Things could just explode. Very much like fishes.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, seriously. Yeah. No. Same sort of deal. Like my father's side is like Norwegian, so you just kind of see like the stoic, quiet, and observant part of my dad. But my mom's side is Italian, and it took
Okay,
over the entire family.
big
Like
contrast. Yeah.
yeah, the big fish ate the little fish like real quick. So it's like we all have those like Italian traits of just constantly talking, then bickering, then figuring it out, but then bickering again. It's just like it's nonstop. So you have to learn how to like sit there and find the calm in the storm, like I was saying,
Yeah.
because it's gonna keep going no matter what, with or without you.
Yeah, no doubt. There was a couple of other things that I liked. What else do I have? Oh, I liked the honeydew episode as well, where Marcus goes to Amsterdam and we have the Will Poulter
Yes.
episode. I thought that was really
Yeah.
good. He's a character I think we're going to, but I want to see more of Will Poulter's character. I don't know if he'll necessarily like move to Chicago and be an every episode guy, or if maybe there'll be flashbacks or something. But I liked his character. He was like very quiet and kind of to himself, but it seemed like he also, once you kind of scratched under the onion a little bit, there was more personality there. And obviously, he's a damn good cook. And I like seeing like the dessert shit.
Yeah.
Most of them, like I don't think I would even like, but I just like the presentation and how they
No,
look.
I agree. It always looks so pretty.
It does.
And Will Poulter, his character too, is just like he's silent, but he's also like very direct. When
Yes.
he was making corrections to Marcus, he was always just like give him exactly what he needed to do and just like again, again, again. He was just like confident and calm. It was like the perfect
Yep.
mix. And that's why I think everyone was
Not
drawn to
getting
him so
angry.
quickly. Yeah, exactly. He was just straight to it. And then you saw his photo with Carmi in the
Yep.
Spoons episode, and you're like, okay, because it was really cool how you kind of gotta connect all the dots with where Carmi has been and what he's done. That's what I liked most about season 2 is because you got the introduction to Carmi and you knew he was good and people said he was good. But then season 2 you saw how far his influence was carried.
Yeah.
Like it was carried everywhere. And everywhere that somebody was, they knew about him and they knew like how like not good, how spectacular he was.
Yeah.
You know, he was a psycho about it, which obviously unfolds later on in season 2, but he's a
Yeah.
psycho about it.
I would say Will Poulter, he does I think he tells a story to Marcus basically about how when he was a kid, he was like the best, the best, the best. He always thought he was the best. And then he bumped into Carmi basically, and he was like, all right, I'm so far away from being the
Yeah.
best. It's just like, oh wow, like that's just how good Carmi is, or at least supposed to be in this show.
Oh
But
yeah.
like I said, I'd like to see more of him in some capacity and going forward.
Yeah, they did, I did see an announcement that he is gonna be returning.
Oh, cool.
I didn't remember if they specifically said season 3, but I just remember I saw, like, a post somewhere or something that said that Will Poulter is gonna be reprising his role, so
Cool. I like
that'll
that.
be cool.
I like the Marcus character too. Again, kind of the same thing, actually. Quiet, resolved, but can fucking throw down in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I appreciate the most about a lot of TV shows is character development,
Mhm.
and
A lot
they
of good,
don't
yeah, great job of
yeah,
that in the show.
they don't only solely focus on the main character. That's what makes
Yes.
a show good in my opinion. Is like when you develop individuals and you do it a little more meticulously, you give layers to every single character. Like my favorite show of all time is Scrubs. I could watch that show over and over and over. But what I love about that show and the reason why I always find myself going back to it is because even though someone like JD is the main character, they also focus on people like Turk and Carla and Elliot and Dr. Cox and everybody in the show.
Yep.
So when you're able to keep a show about somebody, but also give a lot of insight to the people around that somebody, it makes it way
Flushes
more
out everybody.
entertaining.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it makes you
I
feel
agree.
like you're actually a part of that world too,
Yeah.
because 'cause you're like, "I know every aspect of this kitchen. I know all these people and what they're like," and it
Got a
ties
bigger
you a lot
attachment
more.
to all these characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 I was gonna say Tina, I think, is a prime example of that. She kind of just went from being somebody who was working in that kitchen all of this time with John Barenthal's character, and now she's turning into like a real full blown chef. She went and did the cooking classes. Now she's going to be the sous chef for Sydney. So she's really had a huge come up. That progression's been really good for her, and
Oh,
even
yeah,
Sydney.
and you
Sydney's had good progression.
yeah, Sydney, she's to me, because 'cause I'm curious to hear what you had to say about Sydney. To me, she's one of the more, like, controversial characters to me where I get frustrated with her a lot.
Sometimes,
What yeah, because 'cause I'm watching her and I don't know if it's just, like, my military brain and the structure of, like, order and everything, but she's always, like, jumping up and saying, "Why isn't it happening this way? Why isn't it happening that way?" Or, "What are you doing, Carmy?" And I'm always sitting there watching her, and I'm thinking to myself, like, "Let Carmy do the restaurant stuff, like, you're new to running this, and it's more of, like, a position thing." But I like her tenacity, but at the same time, I'm like, "You're always trying to do too much." Like,
yeah,
"Come
and
on,
move
Sid,"
too
like
fast too.
yeah, exactly, like, when there's somebody that you're in the room with that has more experience in the goal that you're trying to achieve, ideally, you wanna listen to what they're saying because 'cause they're gonna know how to operate. So whenever, Sydney tries to, like, undermine Carm or anything like that, I'm always sitting there kinda, like, going crazy in my own brain, just like, "Just listen to Carm, he knows the restaurant," but then at the same time, she's really good at kind of, like, keeping him more organized and also, like, keeping him more honest when he goes, like, off the rails because he's used to this psychotic type of cooking and environment, and she wants it to be slightly more structured and strict, but at the same time, not as stressful as Carmen's used to,
Yeah,
you know?
it's definitely a good flux in styles. It seems like. And I think we saw a little bit more of that in the trailer and just how Carmi's been. I think they said something like the fact that he's going to be changing the menu almost every single day, which kind of goes to show that it's true and utter chaos trying to make a completely different menu every single day. Like I've never worked in a kitchen, but I can imagine that being wildly stressful.
Oh
Like
my
every
god,
day is a
yeah.
totally different dynamic than what you're used to. You can't get into any sort of a rhythm or anything like that.
Mhm, and especially with, people who are technically, newer chefs
Yeah.
because they're all kind of, like, just getting into these roles, like Tina with the sous chef role and, Sid with the executive, role. It's like, all of a sudden, boom, you're jumping right into Carmi's world and what he's been doing for years, and you have to adapt now, and you saw that in the trailer. It was just pure chaos, and it felt like every episode's most stressful moment, it felt like all of that combined in like a 3-minute trailer. It was just I was like, "Oh my god, everything's gonna jump out of the rails." Carmy looks like he's just gonna go complete back to psycho, and you're gonna kinda see
Yeah.
that side that we never actually, like, truly saw of when he was a chef in those other restaurants,
Yeah.
and I think we're gonna start seeing, like, who he used to be before he came to the beef and eventually the bear.
That's a good transition because I think a big part of the reason why he's going to start acting like that is because he loses Claire, which comes to one of my big questions is what did you think about just the love interest, that story dynamic being introduced in season 2?
Yeah, that was it was interesting and I think it was interesting cuz I've thought about it quite a bit because I was watching it and it didn't really make too much sense as far as like blending into the storyline. But then if you look back on it, it kind of it was supposed to give you more of a look into Carmi. It
Yeah,
really was never about Claire. And I think that's what people kind of missed if they didn't really like it. It was
absolutely
never
right.
about Claire. It was more to expose Carmi as like that psychopath. You know, that last episode in season 2 where he just kind of like shuts it all down and just kind of destroys it all in the span of like 5 minutes. You see that it was really all about how Carmi can't do this because at the end of the day, he built himself into this robot
Yeah,
because of like the neglect from his brother or what he felt was neglect from his brother and family. And so he's kind of made himself this emotionless robotic chef of like, I need to do food, food, food. And you found out that he just doesn't have the emotional or mental capacity for a relationship or anything. His life is literally just food and being a chef. And he made it that way.
I hear you. I like all
Yeah.
that. I think that's actually pretty. I think that's pretty good because I was going to say I am in the category of I hated it. Like
Yeah.
I hated it. I totally. That's a good way to look at it though. Is it's more almost more backstory for Carmi, and it kind of actually, if any, I think it actually kind of shows that even if it's a small part, there is a part of him outside of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small percentage, it exists somewhere in his person where he does have other aspirations, but again, like they're really small. They might be 10% of who he is as a whole, and the other 90% is being a chef. So the big voice obviously outweighs the small voice all the time. But I think you can see that there is at least a little something there that goes beyond the kitchen.
Oh yeah, and I agree with you though. I mean, like overall the storyline myself, like I didn't really care for it because it
I
just
just didn't
didn't
need it.
yeah, it didn't add any substance, yeah.
Right.
So like it didn't add anything until the very end and I didn't even think about that until I like sat there and thought about it, you know? It was like
Yeah.
one of those things where it was high risk and high reward. So it's kind of like you're gonna have a lot of people who just don't care for it. Like my wife, she didn't care about it at all.
Yeah,
She didn't care for
exactly.
Claire. She didn't care
And
for
they
the
get a good amount
story.
of screen time.
Yes, they do. They get a lot of screen time, and it's
Yeah.
just like I get what you guys are trying to do, but I don't think anyone really cares about it. And then with the season finale where Carmi just kind of explodes, that's when you see the payoff. But it felt like a lot of wasted screen time for that type of payoff.
Yeah.
They could have done it slightly differently and made it a little more background rather than a main storyline because
Yeah.
yeah, they really did push it like to the front.
Hard. Very
Mhm.
hard. Especially with even like I would say like the like Fack and Cousin like being such big fans of her. And every
Yeah.
time she's even mentioned, they're like Claire, 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 Claire. They're constantly like pushing it harder and harder and harder. Which I was
Oh
hoping
yeah.
that we'd kind of be done with that, but in the trailer she's in it again. So I don't think Claire's going anywhere, which is unfortunate because I have no need for her. There is an entire team of people that are like hired to do like makeup, hairing, style, like all of that stuff. And she's like 4 little hairs away from a unibrow. And they film the entire show and no one says anything about it to her. No one's like, hey, maybe we should trim this up just the tiniest little bit and really express there's a gap there. Nope. No one said a word.
It's right there. I know, staring at you the entire time she's on screen.
I swear to God, I was watching it for my buddy, actually, what I was talking about, who was a fan of the show. We were watching season 2 together. And at one point, I remember him turning to me and he was just like, oh, like, I'm, whatever. He's like, this girl's hot, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And I was just like, oh, man, I was just like, dude, that girl's 2 hairs away from a unibrow. And he laughed. And then like 20 minutes later, he looked over at me. He's like, dude, I fucking hate you. He's like, I can't see anything now but that fucking unibrow. He's like, you ruined this girl for me completely. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, but she
Oh
was in
yeah,
another
no.
show that I watched that kind of stunk. Animal Kingdom. I couldn't even finish it. But I was watching that one for a little while, and she was in that. She was insufferable in that as well.
Yeah, I think they definitely tried too hard as like they tried too hard to make her likable, I think, is because they wanted you to like side with her at the end when
Yeah,
Carmi lost his shit. So they were trying to make her very like caring and kind and then
sympathetic.
but it came off towards the end once we were getting so much of it, it came off just as like super corny. So when it ended and it just kind of like blew up at the end, you were kind of like, "Ah, okay, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever."
The
Back
only
to the
love
food.
interest I got any room for is Marcus and Sydney. If that one wants to go off,
Yeah.
then I'm here for that one.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and I mean, it was cool to get a little bit of a little look at a cousin's relationship because you got
Yes.
that little tease with his daughter from season 1, but you didn't really get too much after that,
Yeah.
and
That was a
then in
good part of
season
the
2.
Fishes episode was seeing the
Yeah.
tooth. That was good.
Oh, yeah, and then you gotta see a lot more of it, and his arc is by far the best,
Yeah.
like, in my
I agree.
opinion, and
I
his
agree.
character too is just my favorite, and I gotta
Yeah,
say,
me too.
as a, fellow Midwesterner growing up in Wisconsin, for him, like, I don't know if he's, like, from Chicago or something, but he nails that accent.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most Chicago accent I've ever heard in my life. I grew up going there, my dad grew up there, and so hearing that accent, I was like, "Holy shit," like, if
Brings
that's
you
not
back.
yeah, if that's not his accent, like, he is amazing at that because it's like that gritty, but still, like, Midwestern Canadian type of, like, way he pronounces his words. Because I
Yeah.
know when I say, like, boat or about, I say it like a fucking Canadian, but, because it's just, like, the slight little things on my accent, and so whenever I hear him talk, I'm like, "Oh, damn, how is he able to pull that off?"
Yeah. He's about to be the Thing, Fantastic Four. He got a
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
big time glow up for him. That's the kind of stuff that doing these shows will do if they hit off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and, I mean, he does a fantastic job in the show, so I'm not surprised
Yeah,
that
he's great.
people were like, someone like Marvel, when they're making another big movie, they like to get those huge stars, and he definitely got attention drawn to himself, especially with his performance in season 2. Like, that was just off the charts. He already did great in season 1, and you weren't really sure how to feel about him, but then
A lot of
halfway
the
through
same
season
in
1.
season 1 though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and then season 2 is like you said, character progression. He changes a lot.
I mean, the Spoons episode is the best example of that, and that's why I think it's probably my favorite is just because it's a character that you're kind of rooting for, and then all of a
Big
sudden,
time.
the first half of season 2, he just, like, has no purpose, and so you don't really know what's gonna happen with him.
Which I
You're
think is
just
kind
kinda
of what he
sitting there.
says basically, is that
Yeah.
he's lost. He doesn't know where he fits in the restaurant.
Mhm, and then all of a sudden, you see how well that training molds him into his role that he's supposed to have. And also, the best thing about it is that he buys in because I think the most frustrating thing about characters like that TV shows get wrong is that they'll have characters like that go and get some like awakening and then they'll just have them crash down like almost immediately. But having
Yeah.
somebody like that actually buy into the change and you see the difference in them and you see like the better part of them and more of their potential, that's way more rewarding. Like watching him and seeing him and what he was like after that week at the
Yeah.
restaurant
That
was
finale was awesome.
yeah, it was
What
it
was
was
it? 2
so
yeah, 2
exciting.
episodes, 2 episodes.
Yeah, it was so exciting. Yeah, especially in the finale where he's like in the kitchen, he's running the tickets and you're
Yes,
like,
that was
"Fucking
great.
go Richie, go, dude." You're
That
like
was
cheering him
great.
on. Yeah.
Fucking Richie Drive. That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a good
Richie
line.
Drive. Mhm.
That was a good one. But even there was I think it's in the episode prior. I think it's 9 because there's 10 episodes. Yeah, so I think it's episode 9 is when they're doing the hiring of the new staff. And remember, he
Yeah.
does like the
The
napkin thing. He like
napkin.
spins the
Mhm.
napkin. That was a great scene too. Even the cousin there, I can't think of her name, but she
Sugar.
recognized Sugar. There you go. Yeah, yeah. She's just like, oh wow, like you're a whole new guy. Just you wear suits, cool, but you're actually fucking on the ball. You're doing some crazy shit. So everyone acknowledges it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see more, and I think even in the trailer, we kind of see that character, like that's going to keep going. Like you said, he's not going to fall off and see. At least based on the trailer, it doesn't look like. It actually seems like he's going to be the one that kind of stands up to Carmi, which makes sense because, like you said actually earlier, Sydney is still learning from him. She's the younger one. He's got
Mhm.
stars. She wants to get one, but Cousins like he doesn't look at it the same way as say she does. Like
Exactly.
yeah, so I
Yeah,
could
he's not
see
looking for that type of reward. He's more
right
looking for purpose and since he
respect.
isn't yeah, respect and since he isn't looking for something like that, he has a whole different perspective on how things need to run.
Yeah,
And from the earlier from season 1, you kinda saw he was just resistant and he was standing up to Carmi. He was standing up to
yeah, yeah.
Carmi to be like the resistant one, and everyone was kinda like, "Dude, calm down." But all of a sudden, the roles have switched, and now everyone's like, "Goddamn, Carmi," and Richie's the one who's bringing him back to reality and is like with the, Claire scene, because he
Oh, yes,
realized,
yes, yes, when
like,
he's in
it
the
was
yep,
fucked up and he went right at him,
that's a
but
good scene.
Yeah, but this time you were, like, on Richie's side. You were kind
For
of like,
sure.
"Yeah, dude, you were, like, being an asshole," and you were actually on his side versus before, you were just wanting him to listen to Carmi. You were just like, "Dude, just follow the rules and get used to the change," like, he's trying to make it better.
Yep.
But now you're like, "Well, Carmi, you were wrong, and yeah, you did say a shitty thing."
Yeah. Carmi being wrong seems to be a thing that's going to be happening since the end of season 1. It seemed like he did a lot of that in season 2, and I don't think that that's going to end just at the season 3 here. Like I said, I think a lot of that's going to be how he handled the Claire situation. I think he's going to be beating himself up a lot of it. And I think he's going to try to overcompensate basically now that
Yeah.
the restaurant's all open for business.
Yeah, and you see that a lot in, shows where, like, the main character is somebody who's either super smart or super talented. You see kind of, like, their flaws, whether it be character or just, like, through work. You see their errors start to come out, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're like, "Okay, maybe this isn't the best person in the world." It's kinda like even when you're watching a stupid cartoon, like, Rick and Morty. You see Rick and everyone cheers for Rick because Rick is the genius and he's funny and he has all the stuff, but all of a sudden you see him start being wrong and you see his family start being like, "Hey, you gotta treat us like a family." And at first you're like, "Nah, dude, it's fucking Rick. He does what he wants." But then as the show goes on, you're kinda like,
Yeah.
"Okay, maybe he should be a little more human," because he shows those little glimpses of a human side and you're like, "That's actually nice."
That's a good
So when you
comparison.
see Yeah, so when you see this with Carmi, we're starting to get that shift where at first everyone was always on his side because 1, he was the main character, so he's the first person we're introduced to,
Yep.
and 2, we're seeing a lot of
And
things from his
naturally, you
perspective.
have that draw to pull for the main character. That's how, like,
Exactly.
you know.
Yep. Yep, that's why no one saw Walter White as the bad guy, you
Right,
know?
exact yes, yes, that's why everybody I mean, at least I can say I hated his wife with my whole heart. She's the
Oh, yeah.
worst one of the worst characters of all time.
I mean, yeah, I still believe that regardless of who was right, but yeah.
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 I've, openly said I think that's the most overrated show in the history of all time.
Yeah, when it comes to character work, when you keep something a little more focused on, those 2, yeah, I agree. I can see the logic in that. I did enjoy the show a lot, but I can see where you're coming from for sure.
Not even saying, like, I hate it or anything like that, it's just so many people if you take a poll of, I don't know, 1,000 people and you ask them what the best TV show of all time is, there's gonna be a good amount of Breaking Bads in that
Oh, yeah.
response, and to me, that's crazy. I mean, everybody likes what they like, but that's to me, that's insane compared to some of the things that have been on television before.
Yeah, it's crazy seeing some of the shows that don't get as much love or the other shows that do get the same amount of love, but, like, there's a stark difference in, quality. Like, for me, when I watched I guess it's, like, season 2.5 until the end of The Sopranos
Yeah.
versus a show like Breaking Bad. To me, I see them as, like, almost night and day difference because of intensity, character work, and everything. You see it almost, like, perfectly laid out because, yeah, it's known as, like, the foundation for that type of TV, but they also, like, nailed it
Yeah,
right away.
for
So,
sure.
it's hard to compete with it, but also at the same time, it just is, I don't know, in my opinion, objectively a much better show.
Yeah, like, I fucking love The Sopranos, so
Oh,
that's
yeah. I
you're
watched that
never
for
gonna
the
get me there.
first time, like, 2 years ago. I didn't even, like, I'd never watched it,
It's
and
funny you say that because
yeah.
I think during COVID, that show got, like, a massive whatever you wanna like, a reburst, a re-explosion that a bunch of people were looking for things to watch, and, I fe so many of them, I feel like, landed on The Sopranos, and it became such a buzz. People were talking about it on Twitter. People in my life were talking about it, how they had never seen it before. I was just like, I love to hear it. Like, I love to
Yeah.
hear it, but it's like, that's crazy to me how many people have never seen because now it's been over for so long that I'm like, it is almost in the back of my brain a little bit, and now it's back to the forefront. Sopranos is, I feel like, been big for the last like, kind of 2, 3 years or so.
Oh, yeah, I mean, most definitely, because I'd always heard the name over and over, but I didn't know anything about it. So I just kept hearing the name and I was like, "That sounds like a stupid show." But then I heard, like, people talking about what it was, and then I figured out it was like mob show, an Italian mob show, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that could be interesting." And then I just kinda saw, like, little pieces of it, and then I tried to watch it once, and I just think I didn't continue, but then I finally, like, sat down and watched it, kept watching it, and then all of a sudden it felt like I was watching Goodfellas over and over every episode, which
Yeah,
I love, and it's one of my wife's favorite movies too. And so kind of like
one of the best movies
seeing
of all
that
time.
seeing that action was just awesome, and yeah, great show, great show.
The constant character, even when there was no action, which honestly is actually kind of like the same thing with Game of Thrones. The political stuff, the
Yep.
inner drama just within the family, like it was enough. Even if it wasn't an episode that was jam packed with action, there was enough there to constantly enough meat on the bone for you to feel satisfied with every single episode.
Oh yeah, because you always had to worry about the mental game part of it too. Yeah, just
Yeah,
like Game of Thrones, it was like there's a mental aspect and there's like that straight up mob shit aspect.
right.
And you have the people who are chaotic, you have the people who are calm, cool, collected, you have the people who are calm until they're not. It's like there was different aspects for every character that you could kind of glue to.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I could always talk Sopranos.
True.
So what else we got? We kind of wrapped up season 2 for the most part. Is there anything else from season 3 trailer that I kind of found? Well, obviously, just because of where season 2 leaves off, the restaurant is open now and it's full blown. So you have to imagine, which I do like, you have to imagine there's gonna be more kitchen, like inside the kitchen this season. Because season 2
Oh yeah.
definitely kind of left, they didn't leave it completely, but there was a lot less than there was of season 1.
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
excited about that. The other thing that I'm kind of excited about is that it seems like Fak, who I love, is going to be a bigger character. Like he keeps
Yep.
expanding. Like the first season, just a maintenance guy. The second season, he expands, and now it seems like he's going to be expanded even more, which I love. I love Fak. I think he's the man.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's just like he's a simple dude, but then he's involved with everybody in some right, and then also like he has ties to Carm's family and Richie, and you see more details of that
Yes.
throughout season 2 versus season 1. You were just like, okay, he's their friend, and he fixes shit good, and he's funny. You're like, I don't know if there's more to him, but
Right.
he was because he was that comic
Comedic
relief, but
relief.
now,
Right.
yep.
Yep. Yep.
And now you get to see it's like, oh, okay, he has more to him and he wants more for himself as well, which you
Yes.
saw in that final episode where it was just like, I want to do this. Because before I thought he just wanted to be employed there to be a part of something. Because that's how he was kind of coming off in season
Yeah.
1, where he's like, can I get a job here? Can I get a job here? But now season 2, where he was in the action, you saw it just fully unload of like, okay, he wants to do it and he's figuring out how big of a task that he has like ahead of him. So I feel like we're gonna see some development with him in season 3 too of like, okay, welcome to being a waiter in a restaurant that's trying to get a fucking Michelin star, dude. Like
Yeah.
into the fire you go.
So
So
even like obviously Cousins had that glow up, but he's very new to the game himself too. To have
yeah.
somebody already under his wing is very, very fast. I think things are moving quick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We also see Fact's brother, the one that we saw in the Fishes episode that we got to meet. He's gonna be the new maintenance guy based on the trailer, which I think is pretty funny. The two of
Hmm.
them, their dynamic just in the Fishes episode alone was very, very, very funny. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think
And
the
I
two of
mean,
them together will be good.
that Fishes episode, because we talked about that a little bit, but that's like the episode in a lot of people's mind,
Yeah,
because the story, the chaos, and then also there was a
tons
lot
of
of
cameos.
stars. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
yep,
cameos.
yep,
Because I mean, John Mulaney was in there. I
yep.
think Sarah Paulson was in there,
Speaking
and
of
there was
Breaking Bad, yeah,
yeah,
we already tied back Bob Odenkirk there.
yep,
Saul,
yep,
Better Call Saul.
that's right. And
Yep,
then I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is being like the
she was
psychotic monster. She was so good.
fantastic. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was. And then she came back quickly during the finale for a second. And she was good then too. Even that's a scene actually. Like she's
Yeah.
with the
Sugar's Hut. Yeah. I
yes,
forget
and
his fucking name,
he's
but yeah.
very emotionally affected. I feel like just watching it, I was kind of getting sentimental and fucking emotional watching it. She was good. She was really, really good.
Mhm, and then you kinda you saw, like, almost the gears turning in his head, like, in real time of, like, "Okay, I can't be happy-go-lucky anymore, like, I have to tackle something serious. How am I gonna do this properly?" Kind of like all of a sudden he got thrown right into the mix, whereas before he was just happy go lucky, hey, go fuck off over here somewhere, guy. And then in that moment, all of a sudden he had to be the one to deliver the news of like, hey, the mom's not here, but without letting them know that he literally just talked to her and tried to convince her for 5 minutes outside.
Yeah. He
So
goes inside, he's still crying.
yeah, exactly.
He's in the trailer. He's talking to Sydney in the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like in it looks like they're in some like someone's house's kitchen. So
Mm-hmm.
he'll probably be a little bit of a bigger role, I would imagine. I'd be curious to see if we'll see Jamie Lee Curtis again. That's the one. Like, I think we'll see John Bernthal again just in flashbacks because he's been in both seasons. So I'd be surprised if we didn't see him again in another flashback.
Yeah.
But Jamie Lee's the one character out of that Fish's episode that I could see making another comeback at some point.
Yeah, and also I feel like when she makes that comeback, it's gonna be like a decent splash into the storyline, because if she does come back and actually like sees the restaurant slash visits her kids, I feel like it's gonna put like a rift in something
I
that's
think it
gonna
ends
like
up bad. Yeah.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
initially it's the kind of thing where she's like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you guys. And they almost want to like somehow make her away like a part of the restaurant, and then she fucking implodes and explodes everything.
Mm-hmm.
I could
Yeah.
see something like that happening.
She's like super, super bipolar and super like
She
manic,
was so good in
depressive
that episode.
episodes. Yeah, she was so back and forth, and just the way that she spoke and acted out that chaos so well.
Mhm.
It made you just as nervous as probably everyone else was supposed to be in that kitchen.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you like didn't want to piss her off, and you're watching the
Yes.
show. You're just like, I would stay out of her way. I'd be so fucking scared.
I think it's John Mulaney's character. He says, like, "Should I go?" I think he said just something like, "Should I go tell her?" or something like that, and they're
Yeah.
just like, "Don't go in the fucking kitchen."
Hmm.
What about let's see. Oh, you know what's one thing that I it happens in season 2 that I'm hoping we might see in season 3 is during season 2 they hire some new chefs, obviously, because the restaurant's expanding and we're getting new people. And one of them is like that the crackhead who
Yeah.
cuts like a million miles an hour. In season 2, I thought I would love to see like that's a great way to be in the kitchen and give us another cooking scene, and it could be funny too. I would see like a chef trying like a tryout, you know what I mean? Trying to get hired by the kitchen, and there's probably one person that's really really good, and then you can have them be as a new regular character in the kitchen. But then you just have like 3 or 4 guys who are just complete schmucks who are freaking slicing their hand or whatever. I think, like I said, I love seeing the cooking stuff, so I think that would be a funny way to do a different take on the kitchen scenes that they've already been doing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Just something different because everything's always like almost smooth sailing in the kitchen. They're fucking making bomb food. Everything's going fast. I would like to see a different spin where things are chaotic in a bad sense. I think that'd be
Yeah,
fun.
cause you see that, aspect in kitchens, from my friends who have worked in kitchens and, like, other people you hear talking about it. You forget about, those types of cooks slash, restaurant personnel who are just, like, out there snorting lines before their shift or going on their break to get another bump so they can get back in there and lock in, and I saw that scene, and that's what I immediately thought of. I thought of my buddies talking about how the chefs would be doing lines outside of a fucking Applebee's before they go in and heat up the chicken in the microwave and hand it out, acting like it's the most stressful thing
Yeah.
ever. They're like, "Gotta put
So
these honey barbecue boneless wings out here.
I
Let
don't
me
tell
get
too
some."
many. I don't tell too many eyeglass stores. But before I started my own shop, I worked at LensCrafters, which is like the big name across the country, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I used to fill in anywhere I could. There's like probably 6 or 7 of them in my 20-mile radius of my house. So I used to fill in everywhere. And this one store I used to fill in pretty regularly at probably twice a month. There'd be this guy that I work with in the lab. He had to have been, so at that point, I was in my early 20s. He had to have been in his late 40s, early 50s, I would say. Cool dude, wicked good guy, wicked nice, all that. But about midway through a shift, all of a sudden he would go to the bathroom and he'd come back and he would be fucking full of piss and vinegar, tornadoing through that fucking lab. I would just be like, holy shit, dude. Like, you're still living in the 70s. You're cranking that shit out on fucking lunch break at LensCrafters. I was like, good for you. I respect it, man.
You got Taz from Looney Tunes coming back in and just fucking going crazy.
Yeah, like I
Yeah,
said,
getting
he was a
fitted.
good time. He was a funny guy, so I loved it. I loved working with him. It was always a funny thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I worked construction for 2 years, so that shit was just like every week. You have some dudes who may not be on your crew, but you see them on the same site. All of a sudden, you see them in the morning, and then like 10 minutes later, you see them come out of the porta john and they're fucking ready to rock and roll. Or they're like zombied out too. It's like, you see every single drug on those fucking sites, man, and just
Yeah.
seeing the difference of the people on them. So yeah, when I saw that, I just like I got flashbacks to my friends' stories, and then I got flashbacks to job sites of just these dudes kicking down, kicking the porta potty door off of its hinges. It seemed like, and then just jumping into a ditch and digging.
So, dude, I gotta say, you've lived quite the like, fucking pizza place, the army, fucking construction,
Yeah, yeah.
one of 9 kids. Chaotic life, brother.
It's hard, yeah, it's for me, it's, like, hard to explain because if I were to, like, give somebody a timeline of the things I did from, like, 17 to now, it
How
would
old are you
just
now?
I'm 25, so I'm
Holy
still young.
shit!
Yeah. So, like,
Well,
the
I had
8
no idea I was that much older than you. All right, word.
Yeah, the 8 years of, like, explaining what I've done to to people, like, as far as, like, jobs or, like, shit I've done, like, with my friends or in my life, it would just seem all, like, bullshit just because of how much it jumps around. Like, I
Yeah.
would be like, "Oh, yeah, I was in Wisconsin this year, and then I lived in Florida for a year, and then I went back to Wisconsin, and then I was
Are
in
you in
Florida for
Wisconsin
3
now?
more years." No, I'm in Georgia now because 'cause I'm stationed
Okay.
here, so
Oh, okay. All right, I
mhm.
got you. I got you. I got you. Got you.
But, yeah, like, those the 8 years of just being into adulthood where I was like, "Oh, I can do what I want," and then you just figure out what that means because like, every choice you make is just like, "Oh, shit, I guess I'm here now," from, yeah, pizza place to construction site to military. It's just a fucking whirlwind, man, and
Yeah.
now, like, military, but also podcasting and trying to get into, like, media/sports medias.
Yeah.
Navigating that world is crazy too, because I'm not that part, I'm bull like, absolute shit at. Like, I've not the speaking part when I get on camera, but, like, the marketing and networking part,
Yeah.
so bad at that because when I get nervous, I don't, like, shut down. I just get overly positive and, like, friendly. So every time I come up to someone new, I just
Sounds like a
kinda
good thing
sound like
almost.
well, it is until you, like, you're looking back at it and you're like, "Wow, okay, I was definitely acting like a serial killer for, like, 3 hours straight talking to that person." You're sitting there and you're like, "Dude, I love what you do so much. Everything you do is great." And you're like that person thinks you're gonna, like, follow them home because you didn't, like, break a smile for 2 hours, you know? So, the marketing shit, I gotta figure out.
Oh, fuck, that's funny as shit. No,
I mean,
I
just
definitely
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad that this whole thing, this whole podcast thing for me just started as a passion project, and it'll never be more never be more than that. I just kinda like you said at the beginning, just having people to talk about shows, movies, like, I love that. Just having people with the same general interest, and we can just fucking put everything else aside and just be like, let's focus on this fake world with these fake characters and just do nothing but
Mhm.
talk about them for an hour or whatever. I love that. I think it's great.
Oh, yeah, it's, like, the perfect escape, and I mean,
Yeah.
for all of the people too who have that as, like, their, full-time jobs, it's like, dude, like, those
God
people are living
bless.
the dream. Yeah, God
Yeah.
bless to them, like, they're having a great time. Like,
Yep.
he's having my show with my buddy, it's exactly what we want it to be because 'cause we're just like we don't see each other because 'cause we're both stationed, like, 1,000 miles away, but now once a week, he and I get to sit down and just talk sports for,
Yeah.
like, an hour and just get all of our takes out and just sit there rather than waiting for somebody to text you back because no one's a good texter anymore. And me personally, like, I fucking hate doing it because I don't like waiting for someone's opinion. I like that face to face,
I'm
"Let me
terrible at
hear what
that.
you're thinking." Yeah. Yeah, I mean, me too. It's just like so I'd much rather have someone right in front of me so I can
No,
see their
definitely.
expressions and then also, like, get their reaction in a timely manner rather than waiting for it. Because 'cause I'll just fucking panic and I'll be like, oh, no, okay, they're wrong, I'm wrong." I'll go through, like, 8 different scenarios, and then none of them are true. They're all
I
wrong.
that can be diagnosed, my friend.
Yeah, oh, don't worry, it has been. So it's like it has been for sure.
My man, my man.
No, it's good thing,
Oh yeah, of
awareness and
course.
all that.
Of course. Let's see if I had anything else. Yeah, I think most of my stuff. We already talked about Will Poulter coming back. Talked about Jamie Lee coming back. I guess one big thing is that seasons 1 and 2 basically ended on good notes for the most part. At the end of season 1,
Yeah.
they find the money to open the restaurant. Season 2, they open the restaurant. Do you think that this one ends in a similar fashion, or do you think it ends more chaotic? Because I personally think that this one's going to end on more of a chaotic negative note than the first two have.
Yeah, I think so too because the end of season 1, it was like straight up happy go lucky, everything's going good. And at the end of season 2, there are still some pieces that need to be figured out, but
That's true.
overall they're still going towards their goal.
Yeah.
And then season 3, I think that now that everything's like fully integrated, you can just blow it up at the end and make everybody just being like, what the fuck is going to happen next because
Yeah.
everything's fucked right now.
That's
So I
exactly how I
agree.
think it's going to go. It also keeps the show progressing because obviously I don't think they want to end this thing too
No.
fast just because it's such a monster. So I think that would lead to a good like I don't think there's any world where they get a star like this season in season 3. Like I'd be fucking stunned if that happens.
Yeah. I think that's like the end of the show goal when things kind of start coming together
I
and that
agree.
chaos is more just controlled. It's not completely gone, it's just controlled.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get that star, but I feel like they're going to be building for that for a while and they can do that with character integrations, they can do that with new people joining a storyline. They can shift the
I
entire
think we're
dynamic of the
due for a new
restaurant.
character.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like what you were saying, there's gonna be like a cook who kind of starts showing out a little more,
Yeah.
and I feel like maybe they could play more of a pivotal role, or they could even cause a rift between Sid and Carmi because maybe this kid is just like out of
Really
their
good.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an
So
idea. That's an idea. I like that. But yeah,
yeah.
I
What?
could see like I could see 5 seasons to me kind of makes sense. Like I could see
Yeah.
this one kind of ending with a huge negativity, like a crash, a big explosion. And then 4 kind of being the beginning of the rise and rebuilding from the ashes. And then season 5 is when we really go for that star. And kind of like you said, I feel like that's a good way to end the show. And I feel like 5 seasons is, I think that's pretty good for the show. You don't want to go too long.
Oh yeah. No, you kind of want to end a show with people wanting more out of it, but
Right.
also
Absolutely.
with the satisfying ending in a way where
Yes.
it's like, man, I wish I could watch these people forever, but at the same time, it ended in the way it was supposed to.
Yep.
Yeah, finding that balance is hard to do. Like even with the boys, how they announced it's done after season 5, it's gonna make me sad that it's gonna be over after season 5 because you see so much awesome shit when I'm watching that show, but at the same time, I'm like, "Okay, but it does need to, like, conclude."
On a good
Because
note, and you're
yeah, when
getting
you
more too. You know you're gonna be getting more spin-offs, the world's
exactly.
expanding.
Mhm, mhm. I mean, yeah, and that's you figure out what happens when you go too long on a show. Like, the best example of that is, like, The Walking Dead, how they kinda
Oh,
kept
man.
going and going, and then it just shit the bed so fucking bad. It was doing so well, and then at season 6, 7, you're just like, "Alright, like,
I
kill it."
gave up on that one earlier than a lot of people, but I was into it for a little bit.
Yeah, I was into the comics. I was reading the comics
Oh, yeah.
too. So I'd gotten pretty far in the comics and then the show was kind of like following it, but then I figured out how different it was and then there was just like all these pieces and I just kind of stopped watching like halfway through like that Negan storyline and I was like,
Yeah. See,
eh.
I was out way before then. I think the last thing I've ever seen was that old guy dying.
Oh, yeah, with the
Winfield or something
governor
like that.
came back and chopped off Herschel's head. You're
Yeah,
just like,
there you go.
okay.
That I remember. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. I think that's about where I left off. Yeah, that one never did it for me. Actually, honestly, you know what would have kept me going in that show longer is if they just kept John Barenthal alive after like season 2 because Shane was a badass. Shane was awesome.
Yeah, and you could have seen like I mean, they could have redeemed him in some sort of right too, but they were so focused on
Just such a
that
better actor
conflict.
than fucking whatever his name is
Oh,
there. What's
Andrew
his name? Rick.
Lincoln?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he
He's
truly
so bad.
is.
He's so bad.
I know. Yeah, John Barenthal is like such a fucking good actor.
Oh, he's great. The first time
it's
he came up in
amazing.
the Bear, I was like that, like because I love him so much. I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
his. So when he came, I was just like, oh, sweet. He does that though. He will pop up out of nowhere
Yep, and it's
sometimes.
always, like, perfect because you're always like,
Yes.
"Yeah, that's perfect. Fits right in." Like, even, like, The Wolf of Wall Street, all of a sudden, he has that
Yep.
cameo, and you're just like,
The one I
"Okay,
always
that's
forget
fine,
about,
that's
I don't know if
hilarious."
you've ever seen, is Wind River. He
Wind
comes in,
River.
yeah, with Jeremy Renner and then Elizabeth Olsen. It's like tracking a serial killer, you're like with
Oh, yeah,
FBI
yeah, yeah.
agents. And he comes out of nowhere at the end. He's one of the guys that works like in on like the drilling site. He's dating the girl that gets murdered and stuff like that. And he ends up trying to fight like 6 dudes off by himself. He's getting his ass kicked, but he keeps getting back up. But that one, he just comes out of complete and utter nowhere. It's like an hour and a half into the movie, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, by the way, here's John Barenthal.
Mhm.
He's
Mhm.
fucking I love him though. He's great.
What do you think about Sugar in the show? And because they really pushed her on us in season 2 of The Bear. Like, they really pushed her on us.
I think they did, but I think it's because she fits like a crucial area of the business. Like obviously we have, the kid like we financially is a huge part of this undertaking. And I think we all know that Calm's not going to do it. So I get it. I like her character though. I think, like I said, I think she kind of fits a need. She's kind of like the softer spot of the restaurant, which I think is kind of necessary when everybody else is so hard, rigid, tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's like the hardest part that I have with characters like that is because it's such a contrast to everybody else that
So much.
it's really hard. It's like I mean her name speaks for itself. It's literally like throwing a pinch of sugar into the salt.
And I think you see some of how she was like, she's always been like that. And I think you see some of that in Fishes. She's constantly trying to juggle these personalities that are so big and so chaotic. And she's been doing that her whole life. So it's only natural for her to keep doing it now in the restaurant. You know what I mean?
While at the same time trying to be friends with both sides.
Right.
It's
Yep.
like and I think that's where they, get that conflict the most, especially with her mom, because all of her family is trying to convince her the entire time that, like, this is the bad guy. She's a psycho. Don't try to get friendly with her or anything. And then at the very end, boom, she has to say something. And then she finds out, but she still feels like bad, like it's her fault, like, or like she is doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So she's very sympathetic and she's very empathetic as well, where she gets very emotional very quick. And to me, it's like, it's hard for me to like, I don't know, enjoy that part, but it does make sense as far as like finding the balance that you need in those scenarios
Yeah.
because you'll get somebody who decides to be level-headed one episode and then they'll be losing their shit the next episode. But for her, she's just the one who essentially wants to get everyone to get along in that straight line.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that. There's like one or two scenes though, like at least not like combative, but you could tell that she's stressing more than she
Oh,
lets
yeah.
on. There's a conversation with the Uncle Jimmy there in the car that I think is a really good one.
Yeah, you
She's
saw
also
her
pregnant too,
internal
about to be
panic.
a mom and shit too.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Whole
And
bunch
then
of extra
she
chaos.
and, I mean, you can see, it through her husband too, like, she is part of the family, and she always has been, obviously, but then her life outside of that and her decisions, outside of that, like, with her husband, it's like you see that softer side and that she's the
Yeah.
softer person just based on who she's married to.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
It's a complete contrast to everything that family's always been about and what you've seen on the show.
Yeah.
So, that's a
Uh,
good point.
I think that's about everything that I have for the trailer for season 3. I think I kind of talked about everything I was hoping for too. Hopefully the Claire role's not too big, but other than that, I think that's pretty much it. There is
Yeah.
one quick shot that shows Sydney. It looks like Sydney's going to go maybe searching for some other opportunities
Yes, I
outside,
did
but
see that, yeah.
that can't be that legitimate, I'd imagine.
Nah, I think they just want people to kind of be second guessing, and I think it's kind
Yeah.
of like the same thing she did over the past couple of seasons,
Yeah.
where all of a sudden she's like, "I can't do this," and then later on she's like, "Okay, I can do this, I'm back."
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? There was one of the, speaking of Sydney, there was one scene in the trailer that did catch my Carm tries to tell her that nothing like imperfect goes out the window. That was
Mhm.
surprising to me that she would even do that. That doesn't seem like her character at all. I feel like she would be already on that same mindset of if it's not perfect to throw it. That kind of
Y
surprised me.
I think it might be kind of like a preview of her reaction to the stressful environment once she's, like, fully in the shit. I
Okay.
think eventually she might just trying to be like, "Okay, we just need stuff to go out because everything's falling apart." But then Carmi bites right back almost immediately, and it's like, it doesn't matter if everything's falling apart or we're all going to shit, nothing, like, that isn't perfect goes out there. I don't know, I feel like that could be relative to what the environment's gonna be like for that scene.
Oh, I think that's a good call. I think that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Is there anything you specifically are, like, hoping to see or, like, somebody you wanna see or a character you wanna see develop in season 3? Like, do you have, like, a biggest hope, or are you just kind of, like, sitting back and waiting?
I would say my biggest hope isn't so much character. I just hope that there is more like just in the kitchen cooking because that is at the end of the day my favorite part of the show. I love all those movies I was talking about at the beginning. I love like even like Hell's Kitchen with Gordon. I like just the watching and
Yeah.
preparation of food. I love when the music hits there. Fucking the new noise is the name of the song. When that kicks in and they stop fucking chopping shit up, I get excited every time. So I guess that's like the biggest thing I'm hoping for is just more in the kitchen stuff. I would like to see Cousins' character continue to develop, which I'm sure he will. I'd like to see Will Poulter's character back. But other than that, I just hope for the show. I would like a little bit more intensity, but in the kitchen because season 2 still had the intensity, but it's financial. It's getting the restaurant up and running. It's passing these certain tests. I would like it to be more in kitchen, dealing with the menu, dealing with the
Yeah.
chefs involved. I would like more of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. I think I wanna see Tina as the sous chef. That's kind of like what I was thinking about because it's like
Yeah,
you've seen
that's a
her
good one.
progression, but now I wanna see her, like, in the shit during the day. Because I know that before when you kinda saw her in the midst of the chaos, she would also be angry and freaking out just like everybody else.
Yeah,
But I feel like with her new role,
a little
she's gonna have
more.
to take all of these new kids or new chefs into this restaurant, and she has to be the level-headed one because the head chef can be the chaos bringer, the shit stirrer, but the sous chef is like that secondary, that capo role where they have to kind of mediate the top and the bottom at the same time.
Yep,
They have to be the balanced and level-headed one, so I wanna see how Tina takes on that role because
I like that.
her character's become, I mean, kind of, like, endearing in a way.
Oh, I love her character. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
she's great.
yeah.
I love like when Cindy asked her to be the sous chef, and she kind of just, I think she just kind of like breaks down and gives her a big hug. I
Mhm.
was just like, oh shit, hell yeah, baby! I'm so glad for you.
Oh, yeah, 'cause you see that breakdown over the first few episodes of just, like, from thinking she's the shit to this humility, and
Yes,
then and then humility turns into appreciation, and then appreciation turns into confidence. It's like all of these steps and layers that you didn't even think about.
yeah. No. Is there anything else that you had? Season 3, season 2, anything at all?
Um Nothing, I guess, super notable, no, I mean, just for anyone who is, like, listening to this and hasn't seen the show yet, it's a must watch,
Definitely.
especially if you're just into the restaurant stuff, but even if you're not, like I really wasn't, the characters and, like, the plot itself will carry you all the way, and you'll be addicted before you know it.
Yeah, it's that good that it surpasses like the interest in just cooking and stuff like that. It's just that the
Oh,
drama
yeah.
is that high.
Oh, yeah. I know, I mean, it might even change
Um,
you. I wipe down my counters almost every night now. I feel like, feel like it's changed me for the better.
I like that. Make you a better kitchen, make you a better chef.
Uh,
But yeah, I think that's gonna pretty much wrap it up. First and foremost, go watch The Bear coming out on Thursday. Very excited.
mhm.
We're probably gonna be back if you want. We'll probably be back. I don't know. Give everybody a week or two, and we'll come back in a couple weeks and we can kind of review the season.
Oh, yeah, I'm down for
All
sure.
right, cool. So we'll do that. Shout out to Kirk Minahan, KMS Network, as always, for putting this show up on the network and letting us get more
Absolutely.
eyeballs on the show. Appreciate you guys. Facts. Thank you so much for coming on, being the first guest in the Minahan world. It's great
Yeah,
to have
man,
you.
thanks for having me. It was awesome shooting the shit and awesome just diving deeper into the show, you know? Just getting to
Yeah,
word vomit on you for, like, an hour. It's fun.
yeah. No, that was fun. That was a good time. But no, we'll definitely have you back on. And thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. It was a great time.
Hell yeah.
But all right, that's gonna wrap it up for us here tonight. We'll be talking to you guys again actually on Wednesday. 2 podcasts this week. We're gonna be doing an episode 2 recap for House of the Dragon. So that'll be coming on Thursday. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to wrap it up for us here tonight. Happy watching, everybody.
Peace.
All right, that can wrap. Facts. Thanks a lot, bud. Really appreciate you coming on. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it was super fun. I didn't even know how many like thoughts I had about the show until we started rolling. Then all of a sudden my brain just started going, and I was like, oh yeah, there's this part and this part.
That's that means it's a good conversation too, though. That was good. I thought that was really good.
Oh yeah, it flowed perfectly.
I appreciate you coming on, bud. That was awesome.
Yeah,
first minifan.
Yeah, exactly. When are you gonna find your way back onto the show? Because I don't
know. That's kind of been my issue with a few. I mean, not really a few. Mostly Steve from Gloucester, but it's like I can tell when people are like
overstaying their welcome.
Yeah, badgering and shit like that. Like my first love is the show. I want the show to be as good as the show can be. So if they want to have me on, sweet. I'll be there with fucking bells on. If you guys have somewhere else you want to go with the show, then I'll be the first one there listening. Like, it's a dream come true every time they let me in that studio. So I'm never gonna complain or try to overstep or anything like that. I'm here whenever they want me or don't want me.
Yeah, I mean, and it's finding the this new appreciation for the show myself, because like I'm straight up like new to it and everything like that. But like watching it, I have found myself feeling the same way, where it's like if you just let it flow naturally and everything kind of goes in, it's the best way. It makes for the best content. Like with this whole basketball team, it just literally made itself, and then you just kind of watch it unfold because there's so many different people and different ways it can go. It does make it a lot more
natural.
Fun. Yep.
That's always my thing. Is I've said that too. Like, even whether it's on the Minifan show or on like in studio, like I don't like bits are funny if it's like intentional. Like, all right, I'm gonna do this bit for fucking a week or two, and it's gonna be funny, and it's like part of your character. But when your character is bits, I like hate that shit because it's only gonna last for so long, and then everyone else is standing there left like, who is this person? Because I don't know them, even though I've been watching them for however many hours, because their whole personality is fake.
Yeah, because if you have no substance to yourself, it doesn't make any sense. Like if I only did the whole facts thing where I called in and just gave like a random facts that I thought of and wrote down on a piece of paper that morning, that's not going to add anything. But if I like nix that and just kind of say that like, oh, that's my whole personality, all I speak is facts, there you go. Now I can be myself without having to worry about having to force feed these random things that I'm going to stop caring about after a month. Cause it gets overplayed real quick. So you got to know when to move on or find a different avenue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I hear you. But I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure I'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Actually,
man.
after the comes out, probably over the weekend. I'll be watching. Are you gonna be watching this weekend?
Oh yeah, we're gonna be watching right when it comes out. So I'll let you know what I'm thinking as I'm watching it.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get into it until probably Saturday. I would think it's Thursday's basketball, and then.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
And I'll be watching that, so I probably won't watch it Thursday night either, because I'm gonna watch the game. So I'm tuned in.
Hoping for that W. Let's go get it. Hopefully.
Hey, it's gonna happen eventually. The flow's getting that much better every week, so it's gonna build to a huge crescendo. I can feel it.
Yeah, let's hope so.